Hello and welcome to the London United Filmmaker Podcast. My name is Greg Randolph. Today, I'm excited to have Jonas Grimas on. Jonas is a Swedish filmmaker who teaches Term 2 at London Film School. He has a wealth of experiences, and it's a great conversation. Jonas Grimas, welcome to the London United Filmmaker Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I have never been better in my entire life.
I love it. That's good. That's good energy going into something like this. I just want to thank you so much for being here. It's been mostly alumni, and it's so great to kind of be expanding kind of into other aspects of not only London Film School, but just the filmmaking community in London. You're a very strong aspect of that. The students talk about you often very enthusiastically. I think you and Raphael, Term 1 and Term 2, I think all the terms are great, but I think you guys provide such a strong core and introduction to the school that makes London Film School what it is. It's a tremendous thing that you guys do. So I want to talk about all of that, can seem like a lot at first, but I think we can break it down in such a way that it's engaging not only for a London Film School audience, but for just a wider audience interested in film, interested in maybe what a film school is like. And I just think that this, if we kind of pose things in the right way, it can really be a fruitful conversation for really anyone who's interested in film at all. So I'd like to start generally with the podcast. I like to start at the beginning. So my question is, you're a lifelong filmmaker. You know, you've done everything. You've done television. You've made films. You've won a BAFTA. You went to a film school in Sweden, where you're originally from. But my question is, what got you into filmmaking? What was it that sparked the interest and got you into the mode?
It just ended up I just ended up being a filmmaker. Mm-hmm. I started out thinking I was going to be a scientist, so I studied natural science like maths, physics, chemistry. I went to the university to read chemistry. And in Sweden, you do national service when you're about 18, 19. So I did my national service and became a sea captain. And when I finished that, I came out and I realized that I didn't want to do chemistry anymore. I thought it was just not right. So, having spent a lot of time in my youth singing in choirs, playing the violin, teaching the violin, I decided to study music instead. So I did that for a year and a half, music theory and all that kind of stuff. And as a student, I grew up in a university city. So as a student, I got very involved in student theatre. And that was a hobby that sort of more and more took over my time. I ran 2 theatre companies at one point.
Wow.
And ended up in... I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I was just playing for time, basically. And I eventually ended up in the big city theatre as a assistant director for a Molière play. Yeah. And having done, I was on stage there as well. Sort of was supposed to be an acrobat, which I wasn't. So I got severely injured every night, having to juggle furniture and stuff. But that aside, they, for some reason, liked me, so they made me a producer for 6 months. And while I was being a producer there for sort of traveling, visiting performances they also had that traveled in the county, someone alerted me to the fact that you could apply to film school. And I thought, yeah, that could buy me another 3 years when I don't have to decide what I'm going to do in life. So I applied to film school. And I didn't get in first. But for some strange reason, someone who had got a place decided not to take it up. So I got in as a reserve. And as far as I know, it's the only time it happened in this history of the film school. And they only took in 4 directors every 2 years. So it was quite tricky to get in. So
and the name of the school was this the Dramatiska?
Dramatiska Institutet. It's got a different name now, but they sort of merge with other art schools.
Sure.
So I did that, and in year 2 we did a documentary, and I made a documentary about my father, who the scientist.
Yeah.
And
he was a scientist. What type of science did he do?
Oh, he studied the effects of warm water produced by various industrial processes. We're using cooling water to cool a process and let it out into the environment again. Mm-hmm. And he was specializing in the effects of nuclear power plants.
Wow.
So he had them. They were building a nuclear power plant north of Stockholm, and he had them wall in a square kilometer of the Baltic Sea for him to use as a sort of full-scale fish tank.
Wow.
To see what the effects would be. Where were we?
Yes, we were talking about your schooling, and you made a documentary.
I did. We had to do a documentary in year 2.
Sure.
So I did a documentary about him and something that happened in our family when I was young.
Sure.
And it's just for me, really. I didn't particularly want to do it, but I did it, and that was it. But then, for some reason, a national television station producer saw this documentary and wanted to buy it. And I said, well, I asked my dad. And he said, yeah. And my grandmother said, no. So I said, so I can't sell it to you because, the family doesn't want it. And they said, well, in that case, would you like to make another film? And I said, I'll think about it. And then I said, I thought about it. And yes, please.
Yeah.
So by the time I finished in year 3, I spent the summer between year 2 and 3 doing research for a 1-hour documentary portrait about someone quite famous. So I had a job when I left film school. And then it just kind of rolled on, really, from there.
Who was the documentary about? Who are you covering?
It's about an actor called Lars Ekborg, and you probably don't know who he is, but he was in... Susan Sontag made one feature film, and he plays one of the 4 leads in that. And he's also in Ingmar Bergman's film Summer with Monica.
Wow.
He plays the lead in that film. So,
wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it went through. You ended up making that documentary, or
I did. I did it with his son, who I became friendly with, and who is also a very, very good actor. And he looks exactly like his dad.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. And so what was the reception of that documentary? Was it screened on television, or was it?
It was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That must have been very satisfying at that point, to be not even graduated from film school and have something like that under your belt. Was it a feature-length documentary, or?
No, it was a 1-hour portrait.
Oh, wow.
But it got very, very good reviews.
Yeah.
And as it happens, the Sun won a big acting award on the same night that it was broadcast. So it was...
oh, that's amazing.
I think it had very good viewing figures because there's a lot of famous, really popular people in the film as well. So
sure.
It was a sort of drama documentary. I staged certain events in his life, and I found a lot of. He died. He was about 44 when he died, but he'd been in over 50 feature films. So I found scenes from films that directly reflected his own life. So I kind of recreated bits of his life with scenes from films. So I watched a phenomenal amount of of stuff he did and so on. So I managed to puzzle through. It took a very long time to edit it.
Sure.
To sort of merge it together.
That can happen. Oh wow, that's amazing. I'd love to see it one day. If you have it anywhere. Okay. Wow. So I've got a nice idea of what was happening at film school. I'd love to talk about your short film Artiste.
Okay.
It's I think it's almost like a little bit of like what's the word? It's not even an urban legend or something like that, but it's something the students often talk about. They talk about sometimes they talk about your YouTube acceptance speech. which is pretty amazing, to see you up against like the Short and Curlies and just, which is a Mike Leigh short film at the time. And, just so it's so amazing to see up there, winning such a prestigious award. So, we were watching we had some friends over last night, and we were just talking about you and just looking at that. And then also, your film Artiste is online. Now, I think I could explain it and do the whole thing, but I'd rather have you, just because I see this as an audience who might be new, most certainly will be new to just like kind of learning about what's happening in London. So I'd love for you to maybe explain a little bit about what the film is about, because I don't think we've spoken about it much, both of us. So I'd love for your interpretation and just to explain a little bit about the film is.
Okay. The idea for the film came up, I think I was cutting my documentary at the time, when someone called Stefan Appelgren, who did the sound, and he was doing the sound course at the film school. We worked very, very closely together.
Cool.
Through the years. And he came in and he just heard a story about a German or Austrian Foley artist who had visited Sweden in the 70s and at a big technical seminar. And he had been very, very good. He had, in front of an audience, he asked them to screen a 10-minute reel of footage.
Okay.
And then, so he watched it through once. And then while they were rewinding it, he selected a lot of stuff to make sounds with. And then he said, start the tape and start the film. And he did all the sync sounds in this 10-minute reel in one go. And there was a sequence there with 5 people walking in the street somewhere. And he did their footsteps so well that when you played back the tape, you could tell that there were 4 men and 1 woman walking. And his name was Kramsky. And of course, my friend Stefan came in and said, I wonder what happened when he came to customs. And we thought, that's with his suitcase full of sort of stuff. And that just triggered the idea, of someone doing Foley artistry so well.
Yeah.
That we started speculating in who is this guy and, what would happen if he came to Sweden. And so we thought about it, what do we do with it? And it was one of those things when you just walk around and think about something for a while. And one day I was walking down the corridor and I just saw it. So I dashed into a room and in 2 minutes flat I wrote down the sort of what could be the film.
Sure.
As a 1-page document. And then Stefan and I worked on that quite hard.
Yeah.
Throwing ideas, what sounds can you use and all that kind of stuff that will be visually satisfactory, but also sound satisfactory, and above all coming up with a story, because we needed to find a film that he can make those sounds too, because the idea is that he's a Foley artist who comes to the country, which in this case is Sweden, but is not named in the film. He arrives at an airport where no planes has landed, and he's stopped in customs by a custom officer who finds a hammer that he finds is really suspicious. And the artist demonstrates what he does with this, and he hits the custom officer's computer screen. So and there's a loud, crash of splintering glass, and the custom officer grabs the hammer away from the artist and looks down, and the screen is unbroken. So now this poor custom officer is very confused, but he gets a ticket as an invite to a performance. This happens at night in an airport. So that's a sort of setup for the film. But then the idea was that this artist then invites the custom officer to a big performance, and so this will take place in front of an audience. We needed a film that he can make those sounds to, while developing a story between the custom officer and the artist. And so it was kind of like writing 2 stories at the same time that would sort of fold in, and that was what really took time. It took us about 6 months to get that, intertwine those two stories together, basically. So the script took a very, very long time. Am I digressing?
No. I'm following you. My only is just is just the idea of the story being, because that's I want to try and describe kind of the nut of the story, which is essentially, it's the way I see it is it's a live Foley artist at a screening of a film. So you were in a theater.
Yep.
And we're seeing this Foley artist in real time. I would love to see this actually happen one day. I feel like I've never. Maybe it was something that was once more popular. I don't know, but like it's an interesting idea because it makes sense. It seems almost like something that would be a very interesting thing to see. But I've never even thought of the idea until I watched the film. This idea of someone doing live Foley for a film, Foley, and again, for someone who might not be used to film terminology, Foley just being the sound effects and the music for the film. But yeah, continue. You were so it sounds like the script was took a long time to kind of conceive and get the way you wanted.
It did, and I came to London to the Royal College of Art as an exchange student for 6 weeks, where I was kind of working on the script, and Stefan came over, and we met up with one of the tutors there, and they said, "So how's the script going?" And we said, "Well, we're still working on it." And he said, "Just tell us the story." So we told him this story, and he said, "Great, don't tell anyone else, just go and make the film." Cool. Which is what we decided to do. But we looked for a sort of... We, of course, watched a lot of silent movies and old films like that. And eventually we decided to make our own silent movie because we needed control of what we wanted the story to be, etc. So we made life even more difficult for ourselves because we now needed to do a silent movie as well. But I'll come back to that. Yeah. The funny thing is, when we written the script about this Foley artist and this custom officer, there was a sound tutor at the film school who read the script, and he said, "I read your script." He stopped us in the corridor and said, "I read the script." And I said, "Okay, what do you think?" And he said, "Well, it's a good script about a shaman." And we said, "Well, I would rather say it's about a Foley artist." And he said, "No, it's about a shaman." And we said, "Well, if you read it carefully, you will find out about the custom officer and the Foley artist." And he said, "Yes, a shaman." He said, he explained what a shaman is, and I assume most people know what a shaman is, but in some cultures they're called witch doctors.
Sure.
And a shaman is a person in a tribe or a society that can communicate with the gods. And we have shamans in virtually every culture across the world, and they're all there independently of each other. So it's a very humane phenomenon. And he said that in all cultures, when the shaman talks to the gods, he puts himself in a trance, and he travels from level to level, from world to world in his attempt to meet the gods. And he said in all cultures, the third world the shaman reaches is always a comedy chase, when the shaman runs around and chases something, and everybody thinks it's very, very funny. And he said, "So what's your third scene in your script?" And we said, "We'll have a look." "Oh, that's when they're chasing the chicken through the restaurant car." And he pointed to a number of other things, like shamans can fly. And he said, when your Foley artist arrives in the airport, you say that no planes have landed. So how did he get there? And gradually we realized that it is a story about a shaman. It's about the disciple of the magician. Simply because, the concept of the shaman, an artist or a shaman performance, is so deeply rooted in us that we wrote about the shaman without being aware of it. It's part of our DNA, basically. Mm-hmm. So we didn't really change much in the script because it was kind of already there.
Yeah.
But all we did was we gave him a little pin which had little wings on it, which implied that he could fly.
Cool.
And that was about it, really. But when you find that silver lining in a story, you know you're on the right track.
Absolutely.
And that's when we kind of realized that, yes, this story has what it takes to fly.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Wow. That's some great information there. I'm curious. I kind of want to continue to dig in just because it's a fascinating film. Could you tell me about the production? What was it like? I mean, you had a packed audience. You had tons going on stage. Then you had the film itself. Can you tell me just a little bit about why you decided to do that film? And I imagine you shot it yourself as well. I'm curious about that, and I guess any other production thoughts. I know this was quite a while ago now, but I'm sure you still have vivid memories from it. I mean, how can you not? You know, it's a very memorable film. So yeah, I guess I'm just asking for more.
Okay, so well, we decided to make a black and white silent movie simply because we needed control over the story.
Yeah.
So, we had outside my hometown, there was this steam train line.
And your hometown being?
Uppsala.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's one of those railways that was closed down in the 60s, but a bunch of enthusiasts got together and got it up running and run it in the summer, go from Uppsala out to a lake where people go swimming. So it's about 30 kilometers of track. So that was a good idea. Trains are always great. I mean, I watched Buster Keaton's The General about 100 times.
Yeah.
So we contacted them, and they said, sounds fun, because they're just enthusiasts. And they agreed to, we went out to look at their engines, and they had one really beautiful engine that they had never had out in the winters. But they said, we can prepare this for winter, and, do that. So they supported us. All they wanted for payment was that we actually paid for the coal being used. They didn't want any money. They just liked the idea of being in a movie, basically.
Great.
And then, of course, it was meant to be set in a theatre. So we looked around for suitable theatres, and there's a really nice theatre in Stockholm, which we ended up using.
Yeah, it's just the way you photographed it. It's quite beautiful theatre.
Yeah. And then the casting was quite interesting because the guy who plays the artist was not our first choice.
Okay.
We wanted another actor, but he had been in a film in the 70s, which was such a terrible disaster that he said, I don't do films anymore.
Really?
Basically, yeah. So anyway, we heard of this, the guy who plays him now, an actor called Lennart Hjulström. And he was doing Educating Rita in this theatre at the time. So we went to see the performance, and his timing was exquisite as an actor. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
So we went backstage afterwards, and we said, we'd like you to read our script. And he picked up the envelope and he squeezed it and said, it's not a very thick script, is it? I mean, the script was only 13 pages. And he said, I'll get back to you. And he got back to us a couple of days later, and he said, this is a really fun idea, but I can't do this. I mean, it's very, it's very physical. It's very, doing sounds, doing all that kind of thing. I don't know how to do that. And I said, well, we think you do. Mm-hmm. Because one thing you have is a phenomenal sense of timing. It's all you have to do. You don't need to know what you're doing. You just have to trust us. And he said, all right then. And he's a kind of big deal in Sweden, this guy, because in the 60s he was one of the directors who kind of changed Swedish theatre life. And he's a very prolific man in Sweden, also as an actor. He directed many feature films, etc. So it was a great coup to have him in the film. He had a beard in Educating Rita, which he hated. He said, do I need a beard? And we said, yes, you do. And he kindly agreed to keep his beard. So, production-wise, yes, we had, from the school in Sweden, we had a budget, which sounds quite generous in daily terms. It was probably about £10,000, £11,000. But all the costs there was no deals or anything, so we had to pay the actors and we had to pay the theatre. So a lot of that money went on just fixed cost, basically. Yeah. But we were very lucky because the Swedish television company had a film lab, and they were just considering starting processing 35mm. And we were going to shoot on 35mm for the simple reason that we were going to shoot one film and then project that and film it off a screen. So we thought you can't do that on 16. So we ended up being their pilot project, which meant we got very reduced lab costs for doing it.
So you shot 35?
We shot 35. Wow. We shot 35 on one of those old Mickey Mouse cameras, that makes more noise than a jumbo jet coming in. So, it was all shot mute. Everything was shot mute.
Whoa, yeah. Whoa.
On a lot of film stock we got as freebies as well.
Sure.
So, that's how we cut costs, basically. And a lot of sponsorship.
Yeah, as you do.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I've got such a... I knew there's just, we watch it and there's stories behind it as with any film. All right, I'd like to talk a little bit about kind of just moving forward. I know that you ended up moving to, it says on IMDb and in various profiles, you moved to London in 1988. Is that
Yep.
about correct? And my question is I know that you were very, you had a very prolific career in television and film as well, directing. So there's when you moved and when you started at London Film School, which was in 2020. Was it 2020? Is that correct? Yeah. So my question is I really want to talk about your experiences teaching students at London Film School, because I think you have just an incredibly unique position that not many people do, essentially hearing this hundreds of stories in a given year, and you've been doing this for quite a while now, so I want to talk a little bit about that. But could you talk to me a little bit about what it was like living in London and working in television and film directing? What was that experience like? I know that's a lot of years we're talking about, but maybe if there's just some thoughts just from that time period and what it was like being here in London.
Well, the first thing when you come here as a Swedish person is it's quite difficult to break into the English system.
I'm sure.
I mean, it's probably easy now, but it's got different challenges now. In those days, it was very much a sort of a closed shop.
Sure.
So to be able to work as a director, you needed to be a member of the union,
Mm-hmm.
which was quite strong then.
Mm-hmm.
But to become a member of the union, you needed to have worked on 2 film productions professionally.
Yeah.
So it was a kind of catch-22.
Yeah.
Luckily, I had a
BAFTA. You had just won this award.
Yes.
Was that not where you were going?
I don't think that made that huge difference, actually. But my father-in-law was the head of the Royal College of Arts film school. And he had a lot of friends. So I got John Schlesinger and David Putnam to sign my application for the ACTT at the time. So I became a member and could work in the industry. And then it was just a question of picking up work, whatever came my way. It started with some documentaries for Channel 4. No, it started with some short films. And then some documentaries for Channel 4, some more documentaries for Channel 4. I did some stuff for Swedish television. And then I came back and I ended up doing things for the BBC. And then one thing kind of led to the other, really.
Oh,
so on the whole, I just think I've been very, very lucky.
Yeah.
It's sort of... it either happens or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I was lucky it happened for me. So...
Yeah, fantastic.
I've mainly done a lot of television.
Sure.
Of course, like everybody, I developed a lot of feature films and other projects as well. And I could say I almost made 7 feature films for the cinema. And they always don't happen for different reasons. I had one film that was fully financed and had guaranteed distribution, and it still didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mother company, British Pathé, change the sort of top brass in the company, and they just threw out everything they had.
Got it.
Before you. So, but that doesn't really trouble me, because my big interest in life is to direct and tell stories.
Yes.
So the beautiful thing with television is that here comes the script, you work on it, here's the budget, here's when you shoot it, and that's when it's going to be screened.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to do. I want to direct, and I've done that.
Absolutely.
And at the end, I did almost 10 years, 52 weeks a year directing. And then what happened was that ITV collapsed, and then I stopped, and I thought maybe it's time to just do something else for a while. I was exhausted.
Fair enough. So Jonas, can you tell me a little bit about, as we said, you started at London Film School in 2020. You were my Term 2 tutor, and in Term 2, the assignment is that every student, so there's a range generally in the terms, but generally there's between 35 and 45 students nowadays, and every student is allotted to make a 3-minute film on 16 millimeter film, color 16 millimeter film, mute, which we then do Foley in post and music in post. So it's always an amazing experience. The students group up into groups of 6, and it can be quite hectic, and there's students are still getting to know each other, and it's very early on. So that's kind of just the idea of what that term entails. My question to you is, it's you essentially over that time you hear all of these pitches for ideas for these 3-minute films, and you hear just so many of them. It's just such a unique job, and it must be so fascinating. What young minds go to, what they want to say, how they want to say it. In London Film School, being international, you're getting ideas from everywhere, every corner of the globe. Can you just talk a little bit about that experience and what's been maybe something difficult about it, but something that you've really enjoyed about it? Just curious to hear your thoughts on this life you have as a tutor at this school.
Well, first of all, I don't think of the students as students. I think of them as young filmmakers at an early stage of their career. And I remember exactly what it was like when you were in film school, an early stage of your career. You thought you knew a lot, but you really didn't. But you had that desire and the will to do stuff. And I recognized that in myself. So when I see people with stories, and I kind of know what questions to ask. What is this story actually about, is what people normally don't know. And having done the vast amount of films I've done, you get the ability to cut to the chase, really, which saves a lot of time. And there's nothing better than sitting talking about someone's story, and after about 5 minutes they realize what the story is about and why they want to tell it. And that's become my new drug, when you see the light go on in someone's eyes. So it's not me teaching them, but it's me kind of making them articulate in their own minds things that they haven't thought of. I mean, we very rarely stop and articulate our own thought process. And I think that's what I'm there to do. So it's just a very rewarding job, I think I'm losing my... Shall we do this again?
I thought it was fantastic what you're saying. I totally understand. I really think the idea is... forget about the students. You've got these young filmmakers' ideas at heart, and this idea of articulating a thought process. We rarely articulate our thought process. It's a good way of saying it, and that's I think what makes film school so special is that we're before, right, that because that's kind of the process of the term. The term starts with us pitching your ideas. Us pitching our ideas to you.
Yeah.
and generally you're quite quiet. I mean, when we were on Zoom, because it was a couple terms ago when COVID was still not allowing us to be at school, and we were just sitting there. You were listening to the ideas and offering something, but sometimes I think it was a lot more of a listening process and us figuring it out, which is kind of exactly what you're describing. So Yeah, I mean, I think you've said really everything is that's kind of the core idea of what you're doing in the term is getting that out there. Can I ask you maybe just curious as well? At the end of the term, we screen all the work. We have a crits where a panel of industry professionals look at the work. What do you think about that? I mean, I think it's a great time because it's kind of when all of the hard work comes to an end and we all watch it for every aspect of what it is. I don't know. I guess I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that, or like, what do you find that the students are generally elated at the end of a term like that, or is it an array of emotions? I'm curious, kind of.
I think it's a mixture of everything because stories come from a magical place. We don't know where they come from, and when people enter, I mean, the term 2 is 3 months. It's 3 months of someone's life, and it's a sixth of the course. So everybody, of course, goes in and think this is going to be my masterpiece, because people take it really, really seriously. While on the other hand, which I tell people, it's at the same time it's only an exercise.
Yeah.
But people take it really, really seriously, and they work generally very, very hard. And I think that although I'm trying to make people understand or figure out for themselves what this story is actually about, where it comes from, I don't think they quite, in most cases, they don't do that until the film is finished. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, every student pitched their idea, as you say, but it's not really pitch as, getting permission to make the film. Everybody comes with their idea. Mm-hmm. And most people, including me, usually don't know why we have this idea, and it's a mysterious process, and it's a process of investigating where does it come from, what does it mean. It's a bit like the Artiste. We had no idea it was like about a shaman, but someone told us. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you need someone to tell you and explain to you what your idea is actually about, and that's part of what we do in the script making processes. I think some people are very, very clear about what they're doing. Now, other people don't know what they're doing. But everybody is on their own journey. So it's not a competition, and everybody is on a journey of exploration. When they when they shot the film, when they edited it, when they track laid it, and then they got the music composed, and finally see the film on the screen, I think many only then realize what it is they've done, because they've been so consumed by the process of making it that it's only when you mixed it and put it up on the screen and you watch with other people, you realize, hang on a second, this is actually quite good.
It's the community. There's a big community aspect of it
and other people think, oh, this is a disaster, my life is over, and you go, no, it's not.
I know.
But it's I mean, this is the exciting bit of it, because fundamentally, in every time you make a film, you get to learn something new about yourself that you didn't know. And I think most people do that. And for some people it's painful, and for some people it's not painful, but usually the people who find it painful had the best learning experience they ever had, because it's like Samuel Beckett said, as an artist you try, then you fail. So you try again and you fail again, and next time just fail better. And that's how we progress in our work. And I'm still waiting to make a film that I'm 100% happy with, and I made maybe 250 of them. So, that's what drives you. So looking after the term 2 films I think is the best job in the world, because you go from idea to finished film, and 3 times a year with 35 people. What could possibly be better? Yeah. It's a special. It's very privileged.
It is. It's very
privileged.
It's very nice, and I think you realize that, which is even better. That's great. Let's move on. I've got a couple other things I want to talk about. I want to talk about your book.
Okay.
The Director Prepares.
Yeah.
I've read it. I was the previous head of studies had it up on there, and I said, can I get that for a couple weeks or something like that? Boom, I had it. And I read it cover to cover. It's fantastic, and it's just the core bits of really the title says it all. I mean, it's just it's what the director needs to know to get on with the job. And you do it in such a nice, concise way. It's readable. It's in your voice, like no other book I've ever read, I don't think. So you've achieved that to great effect. Can I ask you, what sparked the idea to make the book? Was it something where you were starting to think more about? I don't have. When did you write the book? When was it first published?
It was first published in 2016.
Sure.
But it didn't start as a book. It started as a seminar. And I was asked by the then short course leader at the London Film School to fill a gap in the course program, which was about the director's preparation process.
Sure.
And he said, "Can you do that, Jonas?" And I said, I can do a couple of hours." And he said, "No, it's 2 days." And I said, "What do you mean 2 days? I couldn't possibly talk about this for 2 days." And he said, "Yes, you can." So I went home and thought about it for 4 months, sweating,
What am I going to do? What am I going to say?
How am I going to possibly do this? But coming back to what we talked about earlier about, articulating your own process and articulating your thoughts, that's what I had to do. So I had to articulate my own process as a director. And when I first did the seminar, I realized I would probably need more time than 2 days to go through every step. And I learned so much about myself as a director and what I was actually doing when I prepared and when I actually make the film. So this seminar became quite successful. I held it now in 7 countries.
Wow.
And then someone said, "You should write a book." And I said, I can't write a book. It's too big a project. But I sat down and one day I just wrote one of the chapters.
Nice.
I thought it's probably going to be about 35 to 40 chapters. So I wrote one chapter and I thought that was easy. So why don't I write that chapter too? So I wrote the other chapter too. And then I wrote another chapter. And then I wrote another chapter. And eventually I wrote about 20 chapters. So I put them together and I thought I need to fill those gaps. So the book actually I did it in just over 2 weeks.
Wow.
While doing other things too. So the only reason I could write a book was because I didn't sit down to write a book. I just did it.
Yeah. The reading of it feels effortless as well. So that makes sense that the process of it kind of just happened fluidly. It's kind of one of these things that seems like it's meant to happen. So it really is. I encourage anyone watching to pick it up if they can.
It's a very good book.
I see on your website you have like the new second edition. So that's I just wanted to talk briefly about the book. So I've got a great sense of that. So my next question is let's think here. I've been watching some of your more recent films. I saw you did The Running Man, which was it brings me back the middle of COVID, and this man running. It's kind of a science fiction, I would call it, kind of film, maybe in a way, a bit of a comedy, slightly about. And I believe you said shot on a GoPro. Is that correct?
It is. Yes.
Yeah. I remember you telling me that at some point prior, but I was enjoying that. So you're constantly busy. When you're not teaching, you're still making films. You're doing documentaries. I saw you did the name of the film? It's about a painter who's painting a landscape.
Yes.
And the name of it is
On the Painting of a Landscape.
That's it. I see you're very active. That's on your website as well. So my question is, and I guess this kind of leads us into kind of the ending of the interview a little bit, is what is in the future for Jonas Grimas? Is it? It seems like you love the work at London Film School, but you also want to continue to make films. I'm curious if you have any films that are upcoming that you're working on. I'm curious. What do you see for yourself in the future, just as far as making films and anything else?
Well, I still count myself as young and promising.
Yeah.
So hopefully, as a filmmaker, you can't retire. You can't say I'm going to stop making films now. So I got a couple of short films I'm going to make next, and then I got a couple of longer projects that I hope maybe one day will happen. One is a script I actually wrote with a former student, And then I got one supernatural set up in the north of Sweden in my summer house. And a couple of other projects. So you never know. I mean, I'm not pushing my projects as hard now as I did maybe in the past.
Sure.
But I think there's a time for everything. And you know, as you get a bit older and wiser, you know where to.
You have the plan. You know when to go this way. When to go that way.
You build slower, basically. But the short films usually they just happen, and I got enough friends and people who want to work with me. So if I got an idea, it's very easy for me to put together a crew.
Great.
The Running Man just happened because COVID happened, and it was meant to be a bigger film, but because COVID happened, it was just me and the actor. Basically, we said let's just do it anyway.
Yeah.
And we just went out and shot it.
No, it's got something to it. You know, you've got great angles to it. It sounds like, oh well, you know, you only shot it this way or that way, but actually, it's quite fun to watch. You know, I really enjoyed it.
Well, it's important for me to sort of to do what I teach, because I find that most young filmmakers, they think they need a lot of money and they need to, they need this and they need that and all those kind of things. And it's a big machine to make a film, and everything becomes very precious and important. While I say, you know, just if you got any camera, you can go out and shoot a film. You can do it now. And I try to prove that the documentary, the Running Man is just me and the actor with the GoPro
and you're a photographer as well
on a selfie stick. You know, we filmed until the actor couldn't. He was tired.
He was running, and
then we went back out again, and the whole film cost £5.40. You know, 2 bottles of water and a bag of crisps. That was the entire cost of the film.
Yeah.
And the same with the painting of the landscape. It's a film I didn't know I was going to make. When I was making it, I was meeting up with this painter, and I had my stills camera on me, and we just met. I said, I would like to make a film about you. And he said, we had coffee for an hour, and he said, I'm going to paint now. And I just got my stills camera out and thought, you know, I might as well cover this. So I filmed him while he was doing it, took the material home and thought, hang on a second, I can cut a film out of this. And it won a lot of awards, including Best Original Cinematography. And this is on a £150 pocket camera with a, you know. So what I'm trying to do in my teaching generally is to demystify the filmmaking process and tell people, you know, it's not about the equipment, it's not about the money, it's about having a simple story and telling it well. And if you got any camera, your mobile phone, you got a laptop, you got everything you need to make a film. So that's why I do those films, because I can.
I've got 2 more things I want to talk about.
Okay.
I missed one, and then one about also about so it's one is about the past, and then one is about I got 2. Okay, here we go. So the first one is, can you take me back to I'm curious. I know accolades are accolades, but I'm curious about the story of the BAFTA. I want to hear a little bit more about it. I want to hear more about, you made this great, brilliant film. And I'm curious about being there. I'm curious about what it was like to go up on stage. Can you just take me back to kind of that moment and like what it means to you, if it means anything to you, or you know, it is a prestigious award, and I want to just hear some of your thoughts about it.
Well, winning a big award when you're young is the best and the worst thing that can happen to you, and that's really true. I mean, having won the BAFTA, even before I won the BAFTA, I took the film to a festival in Finland. I met with some Bulgarian filmmakers who said, Jonas, that's a great film. All you have to do now is to forget about it and move on. And then I won the BAFTA. And winning a BAFTA is really surreal, because I lived in Sweden at the time, and I got this message saying, you've been nominated. And I thought, really? And I thought, okay, it was completely unreal. Yeah. And then they said, we'd like you to come, so we buy you a ticket and we're going to book you into a hotel. And I mean, I had family here, so you know, so I flew over, and I was married to my then wife. Yeah. At that time we'd been married for a few months. And I had a hotel room at the Grosvenor House Hotel, so we smuggled in a lot of champagne. me and some friends, Simon Shore and a guy called Simon Eden and my father-in-law, and so we were in the hotel room drinking a lot of champagne before the ceremony. Because the principle being, you know, if you go to an award ceremony, if you drink the champagne beforehand, if you don't win, you enjoy the champagne. And if you win, you can drink more champagne.
Fair enough.
So we go down to this dinner, and it's hard to describe. It's completely unreal. You sit there in some kind of bubble. You have no idea what's going on, and when they call out your name, it's like an out of the body experience. Mm-hmm. The only moment I can remember being 100% in control of my thought process was when I'd been given the thing.
Yeah.
And I'm holding it, and I think, what's going to happen now?
Yeah.
And I think I'm probably going to have to say something.
Sure. you weren't prepared.
So I looked out, and I just waited until everybody was quiet, and then I just said thank you, and walked out. And then I was in a haze again. But I do remember that moment. Yeah. That was a conscious decision to just.
It's great.
Short and sweet.
I think that's fine. I think that's fine. Yeah, no, it's nice to hear. You know, it's a nice moment. You know, it's a nice moment to, it's just, it's nice to have hard work recognized like that. So, you know, just even though it's a while ago, no, congratulations and everything.
Thank you.
But my last question is, I see on your Instagram you're an avid sailor, and you love to be on your boat.
It's not my boat, I'm afraid.
Okay.
But no, I am an avid sailor. I never owned a boat.
Sure.
But I'm a fully qualified sea captain from a national service, and I always sail with friends. And now I go back every summer to sail with a friend of mine, Ulf, and we go sailing, and it's just great.
It seems like you go to beautiful places. And what were you? I'm just curious. What this summer? It seemed like you were in some very nice places. Was it just around in Sweden, or it seemed like you were?
We sailed in the Stockholm archipelago, which is the biggest archipelago in the world. It's about 50,000 islands, and inside the archipelago is an enormous lake system, which is almost like archipelago. So you can just sail. You can sail for months without going back to the same island. So it's just you get in the boat and take off. And who wouldn't love it?
Yeah.
And then this year I also went to Greece because a former student of mine invited me down, and he had his boat and he had a crew and said, off you go. So I saw the Greek archipelago as well, which is extraordinary.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah, I just was curious about that. I saw some pictures and just I just wanted to hear a little bit about that experience. Well, Jonas Grimas, I want to thank you so much for being on the London United Filmmaker Podcast. Just thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to be here. Thank you for telling us a little bit about your life and about your experiences and in regards to filmmaking and otherwise. Just thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good luck with the pod.
Thank you.
I'm sure you will do exceptionally well.
Thank you.